what are some of the interesting things within the long tail of optimization that you're curious about, or that you see others in the space experimenting with? I'm, assuming fasting, for example, is one, but I'm curious if there's any even less commonly talked about examples of long tail interventions.
So there's this whole realm, obviously, of longevity supplements. And, my opinion is that varies from pure snake oil to questionable. But there's nothing that I feel like, there's enough data at this point to say people should go out and really, really do this. I think you could put things like NAD boosters, NAD precursors, nicotinamide riboside, nicotinamide mononucleotide. I would put that towards the questionable end of the spectrum in the sense that there's conflicting evidence in animal models that these things can have some benefits in the context of aging, but there's some positive evidence. And they're unlikely to hurt you, right? So again, we're thinking about the risk-reward calculus. There's probably not a lot of downside to taking NAD precursors, although some people have speculated on cancer risk. But there's probably not a lot of harm associated with them. So you might get a little benefit, probably not a lot of harm. And I don't think most people have really thought about this, is we have very little understanding of what the combinatorial interactions are going to be. So there are a lot of people who have these stacks of supplements. And, I don't have much data yet, but it's a question that I'm interested in exploring, is what happens if we take, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different interventions that individually, might increase lifespan a little bit or might have a positive impact on health span. We put them all together. What happens? We don't have much data yet, but the little bit of data that we've collected so far, I think the one thing I can say with confidence is it's almost impossible to predict what's going to happen. I have never seen yet in an experimental setting a situation where you combine more than 3 things and actually get additivity or synergy. By synergy, I mean more than additive, positive benefits. But I do think that the sort of naive assumption that if one thing is good and another thing is good and another thing is good, if we combine them all, we're going to get 3 times the benefit. Biological systems are immensely complex, and predicting the combinatorial interactions, is very difficult. And the other thing that I think people don't often appreciate is supplements in particular are extremely dirty drugs. So first of all, supplements are drugs. They are molecules that get into your body and have biological effects. They're just not regulated by the FDA the same way. But they're extremely dirty. So I talked before about how rapamycin has one biochemical target. It targets mTOR. These supplements that are generally recognized as safe, I don't want to say none of them have one target, but I don't know of any that don't at least have a dozen targets or 24 targets. And so if these molecules are actually getting into cells and affecting, let's just say each are affecting 10 different proteins in the cell, when you combine 3 of those, now you're affecting at least 30 different proteins. And so it's really, really hard to predict what the outcome is going to be in this complicated biological system.